All right, you guys, I'm going to jump right into this. I titled this Why I Love Donald Trump. The Veil is Lifted. And essentially, this is going to be looking into a few things that have occurred recently. There has been a call for the removal of government Ralph Northam based on a photograph of him from the 80s in medical school, where he is seen wearing a KKK uniform next to a person who is wearing blackface. Now, I don't care about this, all right? Why I titled this Why I Love Donald Trump is that the veil is being lifted off of the racism in this country and off of the real agenda to murder and destroy Black people. And I want to I want to take you guys on a path. I want to, because he says he's been misquoted, play the question that was asked to him as well as his response to the question. I want to play what Kathy Tran said during the assembly meeting. I want to read the verbiage of the law, and I've put all these links in the description box so you can read the verbiage of the law yourself, the bill yourself. I want to read the verbiage of it so that we're clear on what the deception is. And then I want to go somewhere else. I want to go to the place of why it doesn't matter per se that he was willing to associate himself with the KKK. What matters is that abortion, the KKK, and the agenda to have Black people annihilate themselves is documented. It's a documented fact. And I want to just, I want you guys to bear with me as we just walk this path together. Because Margaret Sanger said something very important, and I'm going to pull up the quote of hers in a letter that she wrote. She said, "We're not going to force this on anybody. The poor come to us to kill their children. They don't have to force us. They don't have to do like the Nazis did and throw us in concentration camps. We will do it for ourselves." A lot of people want to say, and he was trying to say, well, I'm a pediatrician, this and that. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon. I spend my life helping children, but his interest in babies is in their destruction. And this ties into a bigger agenda, which is why I said I love Trump, because Trump has given people the confidence to say and speak things that we have stopped saying and speaking openly. Everybody wants to be politically correct and fake. We need realness in this day and age. We need people to speak their minds so that we can stop being delusional about the reality of this situation. So let me go ahead. If you hear sounds of joy, it's going to be the sounds of my joyous children. And I'm going to just give my disclaimer and let's just dig into it. Federal law allows for citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use and is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. We're going to be using this for the purposes of teaching and criticism / news reporting. Let's just do it that way. And let me go ahead, and I want to share my screen with you, and we can just jump right into this. Again, I don't care about this man. I don't care about him keeping his position, but I care about the conversation that we can open up. I care about the conversation that we can open up with regard to the very real agenda to engage in Black genocide using birth control and abortion, because we are considered undesirable people. But let's go ahead and let's start with this man Virginia Governor Northam. So I want to just go ahead and play the controversial clip. This is the whole interview. It's an hour-long interview. I've watched it, so I'm going to skip through it.
Because these decisions shouldn't be taken lightly, and so I would certainly support Northern. Such as this should be made by providers who want to work in Washington.
Today is an exception because of the weather, but the biggest problem I'm having, I work in cyber.
Sure, that was taken into account, but again, and I know 60 the right direction, but your point is well taken. We want people to live in Virginia. They're
ready to give birth, and she answered, as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to every year in the General Assembly session, this year no exception. There was a very contentious.
Be able to move people as efficiently as we can, and as you may know, Lloyd, about 66% of the individual.
So I'm going to just pause it. They've gone this whole interview talking about various issues in their community. And at the very end of the interview is when he's asked this abortion question. Right now, he's engaging in some question about roads and things like that. This blonde woman, and see the black girl in the background, racially ambiguous mixed chick in the background. This blonde woman is about to ask him about what was said on the assembly floor. So let's check it out.
Are doing it through carpooling and our transit. So hopefully we're heading in the right direction. But your point is well taken. We want people to live in Virginia. There's no question about that. And if they're working in Washington, we certainly want to make that as efficient as we can.
Let's turn back to NBC4's Julie Carey.
And Governor, as you know, the issue of abortion rights emerges every year in the General Assembly session. This year, no exception. There was a very contentious committee hearing yesterday when Fairfax County Delegate Kathy Tran made her case for lifting restrictions on third trimester abortions, as well as other restrictions now in place. And she was pressed by a Republican delegate about whether her bill would permit an abortion, even as a woman is essentially dilating, ready to give birth. And she answered that it would permit an abortion at that stage of labor. Do you support her measure and explain her answer?
Yeah, and I wasn't there, Julie, and I certainly can't speak for Delegate Tran, but I would tell you first thing I would say, this is why decisions such as this should be made by providers, physicians, and the mothers and fathers that are involved. There are, when we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's
now let's be clear, he's lying. We're going to go to the bill. And as the bill has been modified, it would not require physicians, plural, as he is saying. Also note, he's not going to speak on abortion. He's going to speak on the case of a baby being delivered and then murdered after delivery, which is also mentioned in the bill. So that's why I want us to pay close attention to what he's saying. And again, we're going to tie this in to the voluntary genocide that Planned Parenthood, founded by Margaret Sanger, developed so that we would kill ourselves. Okay? I'm going to lay out historical evidence, and the links are in the description box, of the agenda to get Black people to commit genocide without any help from anybody else.
Done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion. But again, we want the government not.
He thinks it was really blown out of proportion, what she said on the assembly floor. So, and he's going to go on to say, we want the government to not be involved in these things, and yet the government funds Planned Parenthood. So you can't have it both ways, right? If you're going to make abortion legal, up to the point where the baby literally comes out of the womb, the mom can still decide after the baby is delivered to kill the child, which is what he just said, and what is written in the bill. And we're going to go to the bill. So we are clear that this has moved past abortion and moved to killing live born children. Move to killing children that are literally crowning, the head of the baby is coming through the vagina of the woman and still being able to kill the baby. So let's just listen to Tran. And again, this is not about this situation. I give two craps about this. This is about the veil being lifted off of the agenda to commit genocide, to see the Black race annihilated, to see our people killed, and to get Black people to do the work for white supremacy. I'm about to lay out a very strong case for this, and we're just starting with this. And then we're going to go into the historical reality that this was designed. We have been brainwashed to promote, engage in, and be acquiescent to the abortion agenda, even though it's directed at killing us. Hold on, it's muted. Let me unmute it.
I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester? So how late in the third trimester would you be able to do that?
You know, it's very unfortunate that our physicians, witnesses, were not able to attend today to speak specifically.
No, I'm talking about your bill. How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester.
Yep. I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs of that she is about to give birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Okay, let's take a look at the bill. Let's take a look at the bill. Let's clarify this. And again, this is not about Virginia's bill. This is not about this governor. This is not about Ms. Tran. It's not about these people. It is about the fact that thanks to Trump, people have become comfortable with speaking their minds, and we are now able, for those people who wanted to be in a delusion, to see that there is an agenda to annihilate Black people, and abortion is an arm, all right, is an arm of that genocide. They've left our own genocide in our hands, and they've brainwashed us into engaging this conversation. This is the bill itself. This is on Virginia's government website. And I'm just going to read a couple of portions of it. It shall be lawful for any physician licensed by the Board of Medicine to practice medicine and surgery to terminate or attempt to terminate a human pregnancy or aid or assist in the termination of a human pregnancy by performing an abortion or causing a miscarriage on any woman during the second trimester of pregnancy and prior to the third trimester of pregnancy. And then they took out a line, because a lot of this is striked out, where it would have to be done in a hospital. Now you can do it anywhere, right? It goes on to say that they can do this as long as the Office of Human Capital, the Virginia State Department of Health, or operated by the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. So this is all under the Office of Human Capital. The Office of Human Capital is the most powerful governmental agency in this country. It manages your schools. It pays for Planned Parenthood. It pays for your public parks. It pays for your medical. The Office of Human Capital, you know, capital is money, is assets. The Office of Human Capital. They struck out multiple physicians having to deal with it. Now, what he was talking about in his interview was in clause 3 that they just struck out. Now, he knows that they struck out clause 3. which says measures for life support for the product of such an abortion. The product of such an abortion would be the baby, all right? And measures of life support means we now have a baby that has entered the world and is alive. Measures of life support for the product of such an abortion or miscarriage shall be available and utilized if there is any clearly visible evidence of viability. Her law means if in 9 months pregnancy, the woman decides she wants an abortion, but she's in labor and the baby pops out and the baby is alive. A live baby enters the world. At any point in time, nothing can be done to assist the baby. You are to let the child die. The living baby that has been born. You are to let the child die. He misrepresented this in his interview because he said you would give life support and then decide if you kill the child. But that is struck out. You do not give life support aid and you can kill the child. This is where this has gone. I want to go ahead and I want to switch gears and I want to talk about Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood. But before I do, let's go to the picture that is so controversial of him that everybody is up in arms over. Alma mater, Virginia Military Institute. This is a military institute that he attended. And I think if we pulled a list of other government officials who had attended this military institute, where in their yearbook in the 80s, they were comfortable posting this picture, we would get a clear picture of an organized agenda to annihilate Black people. An organized agenda of racism and white positioning over non-whites. Alma mater, Virginia Military Institute. His interest is pediatrics. His quote, "There are more old drunks than old doctors in this world, so I think I'll have another beer." His interest is pediatrics. Why is this important? We're going to get to Margaret Sanger. This is important because it used to be during the eugenics movement that they would assess, and we're looking at an actual diagram that they used, that they would assess the differences between the heads of white and Negro fetuses. Because remember, the abortion agenda is an agenda to kill undesirables. The undesirables are us. And I'm going to prove that here in a minute. This is why I said this is not about this man and what he did. This is only about the reality, thankfully, coming out that Black people want to be ignorant of. We want to be blind to this. But you need to understand your life and the lives of your children are in danger. It is an organized thing. This man attended a military institute. And in the 80s, how old were you in the 80s? In the 80s, they published that photograph of him. This was the 80s. The crack epidemic, mass incarceration. These are calculated things, and abortion is part of this. Comparing the fetuses, he is interested, they're interested in our babies because our babies are marked for annihilation. We have a 24-week-old fetus, Negro child, white child. This is part of the eugenics movement. We had the Negro Project, poor, Black, and undesirable. Poor people breeding, Negroes breeding. How do we get rid of them? Let's talk about how we get rid of these people. And as we go into Margaret Sanger, there she is here in the middle. That's Margaret Sanger. This is a real photograph. Sanger delivers burning speech. Local KKK gals hang on every word. Women Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Silver Lake, New Jersey, welcomes Margaret Sanger. This picture is Margaret Sanger shown speaking to local KKK gals and a few dragons that crashed the event. Now, mind you, Virginia's governor went to a military institute. It is essential you understand this was a military institute he attended, that in the 80s was comfortable publishing him in full KKK, just like you see here, because there is an organized agenda for your destruction. Make no mistake what these abortion clinics are for. Make no mistake what this agenda is about. Let's not be delusional. So now that we've established that Margaret Sanger, and if you read about this, if you read the article, they were very impressed and moved. She talks about it in her interview with what she had to say. All these white people just disappeared, right? They didn't raise children. They weren't making policies. They weren't doing anything like that. None of that. None of that matters. I want to just play a short clip. A lot of you guys will have seen this video, but there's just one short part of this clip I want to play.
Many other, if you travel around the world, you get quite a bit of the feeling of all religions have so much alike in the divine part of our own being. And I suppose you just couldn't put that in a book, or you couldn't put it into a phrase or a sentence.
Do you believe in sin?
So she's asked, do you believe in sin? Listen to what she says.
I say believe, I don't mean to believe in committing sin. Do you believe there is such a thing as sin?
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world.
The biggest sin in the world is bringing children into the world. But what kind of children? Because at the end of this interview, she shows pictures of her grandchildren. One of her children has 5 kids. And she has 7 grandkids total. So she's not against bringing all children into the world, just certain kinds of children.
That have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts.
Delinquents and prisoners. This is the sin, the greatest sin, bringing children into the world. Diseased, delinquent, prisoners.
So they can just mark when they're born. That to me is the greatest sin that people can commit.
It's interesting at the end of this, look how she boasts. Let's see if we can get to it.
Or pass notes back and forth. One final question. You have 2 sons. How many children have they?
Would you like to see them?
I would indeed.
As well.
Look how her face lights up. Oh, you want to see my kids? Now listen to how many kids her kids have. Because it's only certain people that they want dead.
How many children? 6 in this family?
5 boys to a girl in that family.
Oh,
And in the other family?
2 girls.
I was wrong. 6 kids in one family. One of her sons has 6 kids. She's happy, smiling, jovial about that. The other one of her children has 2.
2 girls. Miss Sanger, I thank you so much for taking time out and coming and talking to us here this evening.
And Mr. Wells, I've never smoked.
Let's move on. Succinctly, and with telling brevity, these 2 words sum up our whole philosophy. These are the words of Margaret Sanger. Birth control does not mean contraception indiscriminately practiced. It means the release and cultivation of the better elements in our society and the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization. All these abortion clinics in Black communities. What is it for? She calls abortion birth control. See, for Margaret Sanger, abortion and birth control are synonymous. Abortion is a form of birth control. It controls whether a child is born or not. Let's be clear. Succinctly and with telling brevity, these two words sum up our whole philosophy. Birth control does not mean contraception indiscriminately practiced. It means the release and cultivation of the better elements in our society and the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks. And then she goes on to say, we are not, I must repeat, trying to force this doctrine upon the American public. Every day, thousands of poor mothers are begging us for help. Begging us for help. They annihilate themselves, is what she's saying. This is a letter. You can see this is an old letter. And I'm going to go ahead and I just want to read a section of this letter. Miss Rose sent me a copy of your letter of December 5th. And let's see what year this was written. Hold on. There's probably a year. 12/10/39. December 10th, 1939. Miss Rose sent me a copy of your letter of December 5th, and I noted that you doubt it worthwhile to employ a full-time Negro physician. When we talk about them using, this is going to go into another series I'm doing about the problem with white Negroes. That's something else. That's another one I'm doing after this. But let's go back to it. Miss Rose sent me a copy of her letter of December 5th, and I note that you doubt it worthwhile to employ a full-time Negro physician. It seems to me, from my experience, where I have been in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, that while colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstitions, and doubts. They do not do this with white people. And if we can train the Negro doctor at the clinic, he can go among them with enthusiasm and with knowledge, which I believe will have far-reaching results among the colored people. His work, in my opinion, should be entirely with the Negro profession and the nurses, hospital, social workers, as well as the county's white doctors. His success will depend upon his personality and his training by us. This is a letter where they talk about weaponizing a Black face against Black people. In the annihilation, let's not forget what she said. In the annihilation, elimination, and eventual extinction of the defective stocks in our society. Those defective stocks are you and me. The defective stock is the Black babies that got murdered in an abortion clinic today. Those are the defective stocks. They're talking about, I'm going to read this again, weaponizing a Black doctor, weaponizing Black people. This is why I'm going to get into my series on the problem with white Blacks. Weaponizing a Black doctor against Black people because they know we won't trust white doctors. They know that we trust other Black people. So they want to train Black people to turn on their own. Let's just read it again. And then there's another quote from this I want to read. Miss Rose sent me a copy of your letter of December 5th, and I note that you doubt it worthwhile to employ a full-time Negro physician. It seems to me from my experience, where I have been in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, that while the colored Negroes have great respect for white doctors, they can get closer to their own members and more or less lay their cards on the table, which means their ignorance, superstitions, and doubts. They do not do this with white people. And if we can train the Negro doctor at the clinic, he can go among them with enthusiasm and with knowledge, which I believe will have far reaching results among the colored people. His work, in my opinion, should be entirely with the Negro profession and the nurses, hospital, social workers, as well as the county's white doctors. His success will depend upon his personality and his training by us. The minister's work, weaponizing the church, y'all. All of this is what I'm saying. We look at Virginia's governor like he's isolated, but that man attended a military academy. How many states leaders attended that same academy that in the 80s posted in a yearbook a picture of him in a KKK uniform? We have Margaret Sanger right here at a KKK rally. This is published in the paper. And we hear her talking about weaponizing Black doctors and ministers against Black people so that y'all will think it's okay to go get abortions. There's a brother that I like, AM1, here on YouTube. He talks about a 10-year plan, a halt on producing babies. I have a quote from Margaret Sanger, where a video quote where she's talking on camera. That is exactly the same plan that this brother talks about. He doesn't even realize that he is regurgitating the game plan of a woman who wanted to annihilate Black people. This is how brainwashed we are. How many of us are marching for pro-choice? Pro-choice is anti-you. It's not about Virginia's governor and what he did in his yearbook. It's about that this man was trained at a military academy. It's about that these people, thanks to Trump, are coming out and we're seeing them. We're seeing them for what they are. And those of us who didn't believe that this was organized, those of us who didn't believe that this was an organization, an organized attempt to annihilate us, to kill us, you're going to have to let the veil be lifted over your eyes. It's got to come off. The delusions won't help us. This isn't one or two racist people. This is organized. This is a letter where she's appealing to somebody who doesn't want to hire a Black doctor, saying, no, we're going to train this Black doctor. The Negroes won't trust us, but we could train this Black doctor, and he can enthusiastically get them on our page. The minister's work, going back to the letter, the minister's work is also important. And also, he should be trained. These are trained Negroes. They're weapons. Also, he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. Let me read this again. Because again, this whole thing with the Virginia mayor and them wanting to not just kill babies in utero, but now you could birth a Black baby and they could kill it outside of the body. All you need is the mom to agree. This is organized. This has been being organized for decades. Let's read it again. They're more rebellious members. That's why in Uncle Tom, there were no real rebels. That's why in Black Panther, they killed Killmonger. The black people killed him for the white people. The minister's work is also important. For those of you who are just coming in, I'm reading a letter from Margaret Sanger. The minister's work is also important. And also, he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. Let's be real. Let me stop sharing my screen with you guys. Let's be real. There goes Margaret Sanger. Here goes Ralph Northam. You've seen this all over. We have our Black Congressional Caucus. I'm going to dig into them. We're going to go over the members of the Black Congressional Caucus. Half of them aren't even Black. And I don't care about Ralph Northam. I could care less about this man. What I care about is that he attended Virginia Military Institute. And he's not the only public figure who attended this institute. And that this picture came out in the 80s. And that we know that Margaret Sanger is publicized as speaking to the KKK. We know by looking at her own letter. You heard her quote that I played earlier in her interview, where she said the greatest sin was to bring in a certain type of child into the world, to let those children live, the criminals. Her kid can have 6 babies. Her son had 6 children. Margaret Sanger had 8 grandchildren. But see, they're white, so that's different. Everybody cares about the Congressional Black Caucus is calling for the removal of this one man as if there's not an organized agenda. Let's be clear. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members. This is your founder of Planned Parenthood. This is her letter. This is a scan of her letter. Talking about training Black doctors so that they can, with enthusiasm and with knowledge, have far-reaching results among the colored people. People with personality and training by them. When we talk about Virginia and what is going on there, and I played, because he said he was taken out of context, but see, I found the full interview, the whole hour-long interview he did, and I played it from the time, because the question before that was about roads. And then the blonde chick asked him about the abortion bill. And then I took you guys to the actual abortion bill and we read it. And I have the link in the description box. He blatantly lied. But here's the thing. We are promoting this amongst our people. And it's a problem. And the brainwashing goes very deep. I'm going to go back to the brother AM1. I really like this brother. I really, truly do. But I'm going to go back to something because I told you guys I had a clip. And if we're supposed to do a collab, if we ever do this collab, I'm going to play this clip for him. He said, we should just stop having babies for 10 years. Black people. We don't realize, and that's when I did my other video on the adoption of a white mindset, we don't realize how many of their agendas that are meant to destroy us and to demean our community, we have internalized as Black people. We're running around here talking about pro-choice. Margaret Sanger said the poor come to us to kill their children. We don't have to sell them on this idea. We're going to recruit Black doctors. We're going to recruit Black ministers. We're going to have Black people doing the work for us, killing their own children for us. We don't need to be like Nazi Germany and put everybody in a concentration camp. We can brainwash them ourselves. Y'all just saw the letter. That's her letter. These are reputable sources. The links are in the description box. We are brainwashed. We have been brainwashed into perpetuating our own genocide. It is insane. I'm going to play this other clip, a lesser known clip of Margaret Sanger. Because, like I said, there's a brother here on YouTube, AM1, who I'm very fond of. I like AM1. And his plan is that we stop having children for about a decade. When I found this video of Margaret Sanger regurgitating his plan, or him regurgitating her plan, I was like, the deception in the minds of our people is so profound. We don't even realize how ingrained their agenda is, to the point where we literally are making plans based on their agenda to destroy us. Let me go ahead and play this.
Planned Parenthood Federation maintains that European women should stop having babies for the next 10 years.
Don't you think such a theory, such a radical theory, is antisocial?
On the contrary, it seems to me that it is more practical and humane.
What about the women who want babies now and in 10 years will not be able to have babies? Rather impractical, don't you think?
Oh, John, you do ask hard questions. I should think that instead of being impractical, it is really very practical and intelligent and humane.
I promise you, y'all. I promise you. He and I are supposed to do a collab. I'm gonna play this clip for him because this is like listening to him talk. But here's the thing, it's not just him. It's all of us. We have the highest abortion rates. We'll be the first ones out there talking about a woman's right to choose. We'll be the first ones. I'm not going to make this long. I just want to stop there. I just want to say that this is not about Virginia and their bill. This is not about the Virginia governor, mayor, whatever he is, governor, wearing a KKK costume. It's about the fact that at a military institute, they were comfortable putting that in a yearbook, and that other political figures came out of that military institute. It's about the fact that there is an organized agenda to exterminate the Black population. We heard Margaret Sanger say earlier, the poor come to us. We don't have to make them. We heard Margaret Sanger say earlier, right? She said, the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks. We read a letter from her earlier where it said, we do not want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is just the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to their more rebellious members. Well, you know what? It occurred to this rebellious member. And I'm going to need it to occur to more of us. I would like to thank President Trump because he is so real that other people are emboldened to be real. And I think if these white people stop playing pretend, we can stop being in a delusion that the battle is over. Because we're delusional right now, y'all. We're in an absolute delusion. Will I say all white people are bad? No. You guys know I don't believe that. But what I will say is you would have to be a fool to think that this is not an organized thing. In her letter, she talked about she was trying to convince establishments to hire Negro doctors so that they could be trained and used to infiltrate our people, to be acquiescent to their agenda. And that's what's up. With that, I'm going to go. Please check out the links in the description box. Use those for your homeschooling. Use those for your videos. Look at this issue with Virginia's governor from a new perspective, the perspective of the fact that this is an agenda that is bigger than him. They want to annihilate us. And they have indoctrinated us to do their work for them. It's like that book that I keep recommending off of my man's shelf. Black on Black crime, the psychodynamics, right, of us doing the work for the white supremacists. They believe themselves to be supreme, and we act in their benefit. We kill our children for their benefit. We kill each other for their benefit. They have brainwashed us to act on their behalf. And we have to recognize this for what it is. It's bigger than Virginia's governor. Their plan to kill us is exposed. It's exposed. When they speak about abortion, they're speaking about killing us. The little smidgy of their people that get killed along the way is a sacrifice they are willing to make because it's us that are doing all the killing of our babies. Overwhelmingly. She said that the agenda was the suppression, elimination, and eventual extinction of defective stocks, which is why Virginia's governor is interested in pediatrics. He doesn't care about babies unless they're Black babies that are dead. Let's be real about that. This is an organized agenda at the highest levels of government. This is an organized agenda at the highest levels of government. And that is why I say you cannot vote your way out of this. I'm going to talk about our Black representatives, so-called, in another live, because I'm digging into them and their history too. All the Black faces we have representing us, the caucus, some of them, first of all, aren't even Black. Let's just start there. And the majority of them are traitors. With that said, I'm going to go, you guys. You have a nice day.